Hey nail sisters, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to show you this double ombre French nail trend that is currently trending. I wasn't going to jump on this and do this, but I wanted to show you guys some tips and how you can learn from my mistakes. The most important aspect of doing this design is you want it to look like a gradient. So you want to choose colors that actually complement each other or that are similar shade, so like a light color and then a dark color within the same shade or hue, so that the colors work according to the color theory. For this video, I'm going to be using a white background just like you were painting, so that it gives the nails an illusion and more depth to the nails. I'm going to be using the Wildflowers coffin nail tips, which 500 come in the box. I really like these. And I'm also going to be using the D&C and D&D white, black, and matte top coat colors. And then also I didn't show the top coat, but I also use that. I'm going to show you the brushes that you can use and the brushes not to use. So I used a Nailart number 3 liner brush. I like this to do a lot of line work and artwork. It really has a lot of control. And I'm also going to be using a pointy gel brush. If you do use a gel brush, just try to make sure that the brush is a little wet with alcohol, but not soaking wet for the blending. I did try to use these harder brush but they were actually too stiff and it wouldn't blend very well. So just make sure that one of the brushes that you use is very sparse for blending and another one to blend the colors together that is sparse as well. So this design is known as ombre, but I think of it like a gradient. So if you don't know what a gradient is, here's a picture. So you can see it goes from dark blue to a light blue or a dark red to an orange color. So these colors will do well with blending because they are either side by side on the color wheel or opposite of each other. I have found that it is better to make sure to put down a white background when doing this design first. So after you put down a white background, you want to cure that for 60 seconds. Then you want to go in with your dark color on one side and your light color on the other side. But you're not going to cure that second layer. Another thing I wanted to point out about this design is to keep in mind is that the design has two components to it, which are the blending portion and actually doing a French. So the blending is in the middle. So you can think of it, if you wear makeup or eyeshadow, then you understand you want to blend those colors together seamlessly by picking up one color from one area and one color from another side to bring them together. So think of it the same way like eyeshadow. You want to use your blending brush, after to make it look smooth. So the same way here, you would use that blending sparse brush. The next thing I want to do is put the darker colors. So in this case, I'm going to be using black on the opposite side. And you basically want to go down the middle. I kind of use the tip of my brush to draw on like the straight line. And I always eyeball when doing any type of designs, a straight line down the middle of the nail so that, it becomes straight. You can also flip the hand or nails around so that you could see it from the client's view. So I'm going to be using the brush you can see here to do a straight line with the brush, and I will finish this up and come back when I am finished. But I'm showing here how you don't want to do all of the nails at the same time, which is what I did. And you can see it's starting to fade and bleed into one another, which I wish that I did one nail, but it does kind of give that effect if you do more than one. But you will have to go back in and put more color on one side if it does bleed. But if you were doing this on an actual client, then I would definitely suggest you don't do all of the nails at the same time, because with gel, it's constantly moving before, if you don't cure it, it's constantly moving. So you want to, keep that in mind if you do all the nails at the same time. Here, I didn't show, but at this point, after you put your lighter color, you want to blend it with your lighter color. So in this case, I'm using white. So you want to take the brush after and just blend it down the middle. So kind of polish it down the middle is what I'm saying. And then after that, we're not going to cure that. We're going to take our, in this case, I'm using a liner brush, but you would use, if you had a sparse brush. So the technique to this is to use a very light but quick hand to pick up the colors from one side to the other and actually bring them down the middle. So it is a back and forth, up and down for the blended look. So again, you don't want to use a very heavy hand. You want to be quick but light. So I'm picking up some white and black polish to bring it to the center to blend. And then after you're satisfied with that, you're going to take your other brush. In this case, I'm using that pointy one, but I'm going to use the body of the brush to actually pat it lightly. And then once I'm satisfied with that, we're going to cure it for 60 seconds. Now, I did repeat this twice with going in with the white on top again and the black, and then blending it together in the middle. So like I said again, this is the part where you really, really have to use a very light hand. But quick, you can see here how I definitely messed up. Like I was going way too hard, and just check how my hand is moving. Again, you don't want to be too rough because then you're going to start digging into the gel. You just want to use a light but quick hand. And I'm not actually dragging the gel either. Again, you can see here how I'm going way too rough with the polish, and that's why it's showing all those streaks. Now, if you had an ombre brush, then it definitely wouldn't cause those streaks, but I'm using a liner brush because I wanted to see how it would give the effect if I just had a regular liner brush for someone who may not have a ombre brush, which I think it still works, but I think the thing you want to make sure you keep in mind is to go in with your second brush to blend it seamlessly together to get rid of all those lines and uneven lines. So keep that in mind here. And I'm just kind of showing you guys how it's looking so far. You can see how the black and white is actually creating the gray down the center, and you can see here I'm doing it to the next nail. Now here I'm taking my pointy brush. I'm going to use the body of the brush with this second part when you're doing the blending portion to make it look seamlessly. The key is to go inside of where the colors have mixed. I think that's where I messed up on this design, is I kind of was too focused on the outside where the line was. I was trying to make that more straighter where it wasn't uneven or streaky, but the key is to go inside where those colors you blended and just do a tapping motion. Now, another thing to keep in mind with this nail, I messed up on because my brush wasn't wet. Like I didn't have a little alcohol on it. And that's something to keep in mind, is that your second brush, just like if you were using makeup, you want it to be a little damp to kind of blend it together. If your polish still looks like this, then you still want to blend those colors together. You can see how they're not actually blended very well on some of the nails. So you want to make sure if it still looks like that, just go in with your second brush for blending. And again, just make sure it's a little more wet so that you have a smooth look in the middle. And here I'm showing you guys how when you're doing nail art, you don't want a big blob on your brush when you're doing Frenchies. They can be a difficult task, but the key is to not have a lot on your brush when you're doing lines. And it's all about the angles of how you do Frenchies. So now I'm going to show you guys. So in this area is where you want to put your French line, and we're going to go in with the white on the black side and then the black on the white side, and actually fill those in. And how I look at it is I I look at the last nail and compare it. And now I'm drawing like a straight down the center. So again, like I always mention or will mention, is that you always want to keep a straight line in your head down the center when you're doing this. I have found various ways to do Frenchies to make it a lot easier now, even after this video, which I will make a separate video about how to do Frenchies to make it much easier. So like I said, Frenchies are definitely all about the angles that you turn the hand in the direction that you are in when you're doing them. So you can definitely here I'm turning the, let's say this was the client's hand, you could turn the hand around and then kind of do it more going towards the side, so like counterclockwise. And then you can basically, you also want to know how thick or thin do you want your French lines to be. That's another key to keep in mind. Now the next one that I'm moving on to, so right here, this is the angle that you want to do your Frenchies. You know, it's kind of going, I think this is clockwise or counterclockwise, but you want to be in that angle. You don't want to be necessarily too off to the side, or turn to the side, because your lines are going to be crooked. But again, I'll make a whole separate video about that. So hopefully that helped a little bit. It is difficult to definitely try to explain it, but I will make a more detailed video about it. But the key is all about angling, depending on which way you angle the client's hand or the nails is the direction that your French lines will go. So I'm gonna let you guys finish watching this, because I feel like I'm just talking. So here I'm going in with my gel polish. And this is another thing that I always used to mess up my French lines, is I used to go in with too much gel polish, and it used to mess up the French lines that I just did, which really is like, okay, you defeated the purpose. So you want to make sure that you go in with very thin polish, but just enough on your brush. And you want to go really slow when you're going next to those lines. So you'll see here, you don't want to go on top of the line, you want to go below where you drew that line. Kind of stay away from the line that you just drew, because you're gonna make it, the polish is gonna spread if you don't. So you can see here I'm going really slow, and I'm bringing it down. You can do it the opposite direction where you go up, but just keep in mind you don't want to touch that line that you just did. Now you can use a liner brush and just kind of go in and fill it in that way if it's easier for you. Another tip is to just put points where you want your lines to start and where you want them to end. And then when you actually draw them, how you have the hand turn, you can then connect them. So it's basically like, connecting the dots. That way you can get an even look. Now, one of these nails I did mess up on. As you can see, I think it's the fourth nail, and I ended up taking that one off, and another day I've actually fixed it. So you'll see towards the end, the nails will look different, because I noticed that I took my line way up too high when doing that one. So again, you want to just keep in mind how far or how wide you want your French lines to be. Some people like their French lines to be a little bit low. Some people like them high. So you can see here how it's coming together with the ombre. And just keep in mind that the second nail, I didn't really blend it as good as I should have. So that's why I said that make sure if you're using a liner brush, make sure that you go inside of where those colors have connected together and use a kind of a damp brush to seamlessly blend them so they look smooth together. I think that that's what I did not do on this. My brush it was dry. So here I'm showing you when you're trying to blend the colors below the French line, stay below that line and not actually on top of the line. And you can see here I'm going way too rough. Again, you want to be quick, but you want to have a very light hand. So lift your hand up, like don't be rough, don't be heavy handed. You have to have a very light hand when you're doing nails in general. But you want to stay below that line when you're blending it. And I'm just trying to keep the line in the same direction as the color to the left. Just kind of keeping it in that same straight line. You can see here I'm kind of messing up the French lines. It is messing up, and like I said again, I wish that I would have did one nail at a time because gel is constantly moving. So even though I fixed my line how I want it to be, but the gel has moved, so it definitely changed how my lines are. And if it does that, just go in with a cleanup brush, and then just clean up if it messed up your French line. And then here you want to take your blending brush again and kind of I did a tapping motion, but I kind of wish that I went inside of those colors and, like I said, blend a little bit better than what I did. But this was my first time, so after I even did this video, I actually did it like 2 or 3 more times. So anything, especially with nails, you want to just keep practicing, and I promise that eventually, like, it will click in your head and you will get it. So here I am tapping it, but make sure that you go inside of those colors that have blended so that it looks more seamlessly together. And you can see here I'm just going in and fixing those lines again, because like I said, I did like all of these at the same time and the gel was just constantly moving, so I had to keep going back and fixing my French lines, and it was a lot that was going on. It was really a lot. I will say it definitely wasn't I learned a lot from this, a lot of things. So hopefully you guys are, learning from my mistakes and how you can make it better. So like I said, the key is to definitely have your blending brush just a little wet, the second brush. Now I'm going in with my matte. Make sure your second brush is a little damp, not too wet, not too dripping wet, so that you can blend it a little bit better than what I did. Now here, the one that I'm going in with the matte top, it looks like it definitely is blended a little bit better than that second one, because that one, the brush wasn't necessarily wet. It was a little dry. Now, if you have an ombre brush, then you may not have this issue where your ombre brush, you can just, go in and blend it together without any issue. But because I had a liner brush, it definitely was a little bit difficult to blend those colors together. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something. I will be posting other videos so you can learn from them, and I'll share different tips, tricks, definitely ways of how to do easier designs for beginners, anyone in nail school. And you know, you guys just keep practicing. Like, practice 2 to 3 times a week. So you will see here how I didn't really blend the colors like I really wanted them to, and that was because my brush wasn't damp enough. So I'm going to show you in a few seconds how I went back and my brush was damp a little bit more. So you can see here how the colors are way blended a lot better than the other picture. So that is my other tip for this design. And never stop learning. Never, ever stop learning. Keep going and don't give up. And see you guys in my next video. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And tell me what you guys want to see in my next video.